On tonight's early edition at 6, on day 2 of the parliamentary audit at the National Assembly, lawmakers jump right into a number of politically sensitive issues, including the Park administration's backtrack on pension pledges and the Unification Ministry's dealings with North Korea. North Korea's ambassador to the United Nations delivers a message to the United States. If you want lasting peace on the Korean peninsula, abandon your hostile policies towards Pyongyang. And ending world hunger is a tall task, one that experts around the world say could be addressed by turning to a reliable source of protein we should stop overlooking: insects. We have these stories and more, so stay with us.
It is 5 a.m. in Washington and 12:30 p.m. in Tehran and 6 on a Tuesday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Moon Gon-young.
And I'm Daniel Cha. Thank you for joining us. It's day 2 of the parliamentary audit here in Korea.
Right. We begin this evening at Korea's National Assembly, where lawmakers fired questions at government officials for the second day in the nation's largest ever parliamentary audit.
And possibly the longest ever. The Four Rivers Restoration Project, President Park's scale-back pension program, and issues related to North Korea took center stage.
Arirang News' Kim Young-gil has a wrap-up of day 2 of the parliamentary audit.
In the run-up to the audit, both ruling and opposition party lawmakers had vowed to do their best to conduct a thorough and fair audit in a cordial manner. Monday might have tested their resolve, but Tuesday's schedule could push their best intentions to the limit, as a number of politically sensitive issues are up for discussion. Lawmakers probed the Board of Audit and Inspection amid suspicions the organization had been filing favorable audit reports for the controversial and hugely expensive Four Rivers Restoration Project, which was the pet project of former President Lee Myung-bak. The Audit Board Secretary General Kim Young-ho said that he also bears some responsibility for his plan to eventually link the rivers in a single canal, which is presumed to have aggravated the water quality of the rivers. Lawmakers also continued to quiz officials about the Park administration's promised pension program. All senior citizens aged 65 or above were to receive a monthly allowance of $187, but the plan was scaled back to providing a monthly allowance of between $94 to $187 to only the poorest 70%. Ruling's Henry Party lawmakers said scaling the plan back was the best option for the nation's financial health. Opposition lawmakers said the president had gone back on a key campaign pledge. Meanwhile, lawmakers also questioned Unification Minister Ryu Gil-jae about the administration's North Korea policies. Minister Ryu told lawmakers that the North notified the South on Tuesday that it's inappropriate to invite foreign investors to the joint inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex, the day after the South indefinitely postponed a business session aimed at attracting foreign investors. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
North Korea's representative to the United Nations used a speech Monday to deliver a direct message to the United States. Abandon your hostile policies against Pyongyang, and tensions on the Korean peninsula just might ease. Arirang News Foreign Affairs correspondent Hwang Sung-hee has the details.
Speaking at the United Nations Disarmament and Security First Committee on Monday, North Korean ambassador to the UN Shin Sun-ho called on the United States to ensure that the North Korean regime will be left unharmed.
If the United States is truly in favor of easing tension and lasting peace on the Korean peninsula, it should show by abandoning its hostile policy towards the DPRK and should move toward a peaceful coexistence with us.
The North Korean official also stressed that the current Korean War armistice agreement be shifted to a peace treaty.
We advanced various peace initiatives, including the one proposed in January 2010 on speedy opening of talks on replacing the ceasefire agreement with peace agreement.
Shin reiterated Pyongyang's basic stance that the issue of denuclearizing the North must be resolved in a peaceful manner through dialogue and negotiations with no preconditions. The latest remarks are being interpreted as part of North Korea's recent efforts to return to the negotiating table. In a report submitted to the Foreign Affairs and Unification Standing Committee on Tuesday, Seoul's Ministry of Unification said that the North is seeking change, but added those attempts have so far been unsuccessful. The ministry explained that despite Pyongyang's efforts to mend ties with China and its recent informal meetings with former U.S. officials, Washington remains firm in its demand that the North give up its nuclear program before opening talks. While the North is suspected of actively developing its nuclear technology, the focus is now on how the U.S. will respond to North Korea's latest request. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
And it looks like officials from all but one member state of the six-party denuclearization talks will be in the South Korean capital this week. South Korea's foreign ministry said Tuesday that representatives of 5 countries, mostly vice ministers of foreign or IT-related ministries, except for North Korea, will meet on the sidelines of the Seoul Conference on Cyberspace 2013 to discuss mutual collaboration and measures on less sensitive IT and cyberspace issues. Seoul wants to establish multilateral conversation channels in various areas for peace and security in Northeast Asia. The Seoul Conference on Cyberspace 2013 kicks off Thursday at the COEX Convention Center in southern Seoul.
We now shift our focus to the ongoing crackdown of the nation's 38th largest conglomerate. Prosecutors raided the affiliates of cash-strapped Dongyang Group and the homes of its chairman and board members on Tuesday. The conglomerate is being probed over allegations that it issued a massive number of fraudulent commercial papers and corporate bonds to investors, despite its financial difficulties. 3 of the affiliates filed for court receivership at the end of last month. Prosecutors say they will analyze the documents seized today and soon summon Dongyang Group officials and executives in for questioning. Over in the U.S., Senate leaders are nearing a deal to avoid a default and to end the shutdown that has paralyzed the nation for the past 2 weeks. Leaders from both sides of the aisle said Monday that they were optimistic that the government would reopen soon. Our Connie Lee reports.
As the threat of a default looms in the United States, it looks like Senate leaders are finally closing in on a deal that could avert it at the 11th hour.
I'm very optimistic that we will reach an agreement. It's reasonable in nature this week.
The leader of the Republican side also shared optimism that the partial government shutdown would end soon.
Let me just echo the remarks of my good friend, the Majority Leader, and I share his optimism that we're going to get a result that will be acceptable to both sides.
Under the temporary plan being discussed, a source familiar with the negotiations says a debt ceiling of $16.7 trillion would be raised to cover the nation's borrowing needs at least through mid-February of next year. That money would also fund government operations through mid-January, and the mass spending cuts that took effect last March would be kept in place.
And my hope is that a spirit of cooperation will move us forward.
President Obama's hopes will need to be fulfilled at least by Thursday, October 17th, or the day the federal government is forecast to run out of borrowing capacity. A meeting at the White House could soon happen, as the original meeting time of Monday afternoon was delayed to give the leaders more time to work out a deal. And once a deal is reached, it will require the approval in the House of Representatives, where Republicans are continuing to fight to include measures that would undercut the president's health care law, something the Democrats are unwilling to sacrifice. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now shifting gears to the economy, Korea's import prices rose by Now, Iran is promising a new proposal on its nuclear programs to break the deadlock at this week's international talks in Geneva. But given Iran's previous stance and recent statements by a high-ranking Iranian official, a final deal seems highly unlikely. Our Son Jung-in reports.
Iran has long insisted that it does not want nuclear weapons and that its nuclear program is entirely peaceful, a stance that has long been viewed with skepticism by Western nations. But Iranian nuclear negotiators say the country is ready to meet some international demands to reduce its nuclear activities and build trust. They say Iran is bringing a new proposal that it says will meet both goals to a meeting with 6 world powers, the United States, Russia, China, France, Britain, and Germany, on Iran's nuclear program in Geneva on Tuesday and Wednesday. Analysts say, however, that with a lot of conflicting demands on the table, no final deal is expected to be reached at the 2-day session. Iranian officials have suggested that the country's nearly 200 kilograms of 20% enriched uranium, which is close to the amount needed for a single nuclear weapon, could be diluted or used to make relatively harmless fuel cells for a research reactor in Tehran. However, the 6 powers want more from Iran. They are demanding that Iran ship out not only its store of 20% uranium, but also most of the tons of low-enriched uranium it has produced. Deputy Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, a senior member of Iran's negotiating team, says Tehran is ready to discuss its enrichment program, but would never ship enriched materials abroad. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his parliament Monday that the international community must maintain firm pressure on Iran until it stops enriching uranium. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, some of the world's most distinguished intellectuals and innovators are in Seoul today for the start of the World Knowledge Forum, which runs for the next 3 days. The theme this year is One Asia Metamorphosis, in recognition of Asia's growing presence in the international community. Arirang News' Kim Hyun-ji was there.
The speakers at the 14th World Knowledge Forum say they recognize that the world needs fresh leadership, as the strength of the U.S. and Europe has waned, along with the growth potential of China. Former Prime Minister of Thailand, Thaksin Shinawatra, says that an integrated Asia could offer new leadership by adopting a growth model that's different from the mass production model of the West. Shinawatra's idea of One Asia envisions connecting Asian countries with a high-speed logistics system that could boost local industries and small and medium-sized firms, allowing Asian entrepreneurs to tap into their creativity. Shinawatra stressed, however, that the One Asia vision can be achieved only when the participating countries settle political or territorial disputes. Meanwhile, Larry Summers of Harvard University said that Asia's role will only get bigger and predicted the U.S. would have a less dominant presence in the next century. When asked to offer his prescriptions for the Korean economy, Summers pointed to education, saying that the focus should be on producing creative thinkers. Creativity was a key point for many speakers, including Salman Khan, the founder of the Khan Academy, which offers thousands of academic videos in 23 languages for free. He said the best kind of education allows students to work at their own pace and take ownership of their learning.
Over the next 2 days, the forum participants will have a chance to further explore ways to foster creativity across a range of disciplines and develop the One Asia concept in the domains of business, finance, and IT ventures. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
At least 30 people were killed after a major earthquake hit popular tourist destinations in the central Philippines Tuesday. The U.S. Geological Survey said the 7.2 magnitude quake struck Bohol Island shortly after 8 a.m. local time. The quake was followed by at least 2 aftershocks, each with a magnitude of 5 or higher. Schools and businesses were closed at the time for a national holiday, which may have helped to save lives. On to some sports stories. After a subpar postseason debut, Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Ryu Hyun-jin in his second start was asked in short to save his team season, and he answered. The Korean lefty threw 7 shutout innings in LA's 3-0 win over the St. Louis Cardinals in Game 3 of the National League Championship Series on Monday local time at Dodger Stadium. He limited the Cardinals to 3 hits and struck out 4 in 7 strong innings, retiring 12 of the first 13 batters he faced. Ryu's strong performance put him in the history books as the first Korean player to pick up a starting win in an MLB postseason game. St. Louis now leads the best-of-7 series 2-1.
Now, if you have seen the movie Snowpiercer, you'll probably remember that passengers riding in the last car on the train sustained themselves on brown gelatinous bars, simply referred to as protein bars. Well, it's later revealed in the movie that these protein blocks are made of mashed cockroaches. Now, it's scientific, it's sci-fi actually, but something similar may become reality in the very near future.
That's right. Ending world hunger is a lofty goal. The UN estimates that 870 million people worldwide are uncertain about their food supplies right now. But according to various academics and biological engineers around the world, insects, them being used as food, it might be sci-fact instead of sci-fi.
Right, so one academic has put forth this idea here in Korea, and he says insects are what will save the global population of 9 billion by the year 2050. And in light of the World Food Day, which is tomorrow, October 16th, he joins us live in the studio. Dr. Kim Eun-gi, professor of biological engineering at Inha University. Professor Kim, welcome to the program.
It's nice to see you here.
Well, I'm going to start with a very obvious question. Most people, we do not enjoy seeing wings and legs and eyeballs in our dishes. And apparently, UN report says that it may be the food of the future.
Right.
So tell us more about this idea.
Right. Briefly speaking, there might be 3 reasons why we should develop the insect as a future food. The first one is that the shortage of the food. Right now, in around the world, 1 out of 6 people are starving. And also, the population will increase 50% in 30 years. So we need another alternative as a food, and insect might be the one. The second reason is that the insect can grow very fast. That means we can produce them, we can farm them with low cost. That's very important in terms of successful employment as insect as a future food. And the third one is that insect can reduce the global warming. It is interesting to notice that the cows are responsible for the global warming. They produce methane in their fat due to the anaerobic digestion. And the methane is very effective in capturing the heat which was radiated from the Earth's surface. So if we, instead of cow farming, if we raise the insect, then it will definitely reduce the global warming. So why not insects for the future food?
Right, so a lot of environmental benefits and other factors as well. But my question is, are insects edible? I mean, let's take a look at the health or nutritional aspects of insects as meals. What are the nutritional values of these insects?
Yeah, in terms of the nutritional value, insects are as good as the beef. Beef here means the animal protein. Animal proteins are necessary for the good health, but in underdeveloped countries, it's difficult to get the animal protein. Also, when the food scientists analyze the amino acid composition, it is almost same as that of the beef, or it is better than that of the beef. Also, the conversion efficiency of the meal, grass, into animal protein, that is 4 times higher than that of the cow, or 2 times higher than that of the pig. So it's very efficient in producing the nutritional value.
Right. If you think, if you think once more, eating animals like pigs and cows are just as appalling as eating insects, if you put it that way. Now, I was surprised to find out that there are already a number of insects that have been approved by the Korean authorities as proper foods. What are they?
Yeah, right now there are 2 kinds of the insect which are registered as food, edible. The one is the grasshopper, and second one is the robber, of the silkworm, we call it in Korean is bandegi. Those two are registered, and the other registers, other insect which will be registered will be the mealworm. It's kind of rubber, and the other one is the cricket, and some rubber of the beetle. They will be waiting to be registered as a food.
Okay, better than beef, or if not as good as beef, you said. But a very quick question: how does it taste? Could it be prepared to taste just as good as the Big Macs or the French fries we eat?
Someone by blind testing, they tried to let them eat the mealworm, and they could not differentiate between the beef and mealworm. So if we don't see the shape, it's okay.
So that's another question I had for you. The biggest barrier is, of course, sensing or knowing, fully aware of the fact that we're eating insects.
That's right.
But we're just not used to accepting them as food. So what kind of measures are being taken to overcome this barrier, this visual barrier?
Right. The most difficult barrier is the shape and the feeling of the eating that they discussed.
Or knowing that you're having
right.
insects, yeah.
So personally, when I went to the Bangkok, Thailand, I visited the domestic market with my friend, and I found that there are a lot of the insects which are roasted and deeply fried. And I tried to show my friends that I'm brave, so I tried to pick up one of them.
Oh.
But my hands was hovering like this, I could not pick up because the insect was cicada, dragonflies, and some spider with the hairy legs.
Oh.
So, and I finally could find the grasshopper. I'm happy to pick up that. So what I'm saying is that there's a matter of perspective to overcome that kind of feeling. There's the one of the most difficult part, but we have to overcome that. So there are some interesting stories. In old times in America, the Indians used to eat the cricket as a food, but they are not familiar with the prawn. And someone brought the prawn, but Indians are reluctant to eat the prawn because they have never seen. And they tried to call the prawn as the cricket from the sea. Then they succeeded in eating that. Also, the same thing happened recently in Australia. One of the famous cooks tried to put the cricket in the food list. So he named it as the prawn from the sky. So it might be more easier to pick up if you think that way. So that might be one of the ways to overcome that kind of barrier.
Right, it's a matter of naming it, phrasing it differently, or preparing it, or making it invisible by grinding it into powder or something like that. I mean, I think tuna is sometimes called the chicken of the sea, so why not?
Right, and that's exactly powdering it and processing it and then putting it into food products is one of the ideas that won a grand prize. It was by one startup made up of students from McGill University in Canada. Now, what's your outlook on on insects becoming a daily meal for humans in the near future?
That's right. As we talked about the main mental barrier, so to overcome that, the one way is to just grind them into powder, or extract the nutrients from the insect. Then we can put it in the can, or we can make it as a bar. Then, if we eat that can or bar, then we are familiar that we are eating the insect. Then after that, we can move forward to eat insect as it is. I mean, so in the case we can find the cricket in the fine dish in the fine restaurant, so with your friends. So I think that might be one of the step to be familiarized with the insect as a future food.
Okay, Dr. Kim Eun-gi, Professor of Biological Engineering at Inha University. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and giving us a glimpse of the future.
Okay, nice to see you here.
Time for weather. That means we turn to our Kim Bo-kyung. Bo-kyung, so we've had rain, but apparently it's clearing up, right?
That's right, Daniel. It rained early today morning, but it's clearing up today. And temperatures should drop to the single digits tomorrow morning throughout the country.
Right, and it's definitely getting colder. We could feel it, and we got to see some snow on Mount Seorak today. Plus, I hear more snow is in the forecast, right?
That's right, Kanyang. We got to see about 2 centimeters of snow on Mount Seorak. Now, those of you in the East Coast regions should be careful on your ways home because there may be about 10 to 40 millimeters of heavy precipitation. Now, the showers will pass overnight, and tomorrow morning is forecast to be cloudy on the East Coast and Jeju, but it will be sunny throughout the country in the afternoon. Now, taking a closer look at tomorrow's forecast, morning temperatures in Seoul should drop to 8 degrees before reaching 17 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, cities down south should hit the high teens. Moving on to other regions, Daejeon drops to 6 degrees in the morning with a daytime high of 16. Meanwhile, there's news of snow on Mount Kumgang early tomorrow morning with a low of -2 degrees. Well, that's all for now, and back to you, Daniel and Kanyang.
Thank you for that, Bo-kyung, and that wraps things up for us. Thank you for watching.
And we'll be back same time tomorrow. Good night.